Today, we have a very important issue that I want to tackle. Normally, I don't read out full lawsuits because they are a lot of pages, and I am not a legal expert by any means. But when this paperwork dropped about Uzi, I definitely read the whole thing. It's only 16 pages, it's really short and easy to understand. And I think that these allegations are very serious. And honestly, I'm quite disappointed that JT has been implicated in this lawsuit. Now, there are reports, unofficial reports to my knowledge, that the lawsuit has already been dropped, but I don't care because I haven't seen it from any official news sources. And once again, I do take it seriously in the entertainment industry when things are reported about the workplace, toxicity in the workplace, along with sexual crimes. And I'm very unhappy with, once again, the way that JT has been named in this lawsuit. So, I'm going to do something that I don't normally do, guys. I'm going to read you the whole lawsuit, and I really encourage you all to stick around because I definitely will insert commentary throughout my reading, and I probably will have more things to say on it. But I want to make sure that the allegations have been heard. And if this is settled outside of court, it is understandable. That doesn't mean that it didn't happen. So, without further ado, let's get into it by reading just a bit of what the lawsuit is about. So, it says a new lawsuit has been filed on Lil Uzi Vert. According to the complaint, Jane Doe says Uzi's behavior escalated from long work hours to a hostile and inappropriate environment. She claims he sent explicit messages like, "Come rub me down before you leave. I'm by myself right now. Send me something. You're more than my assistant. You're my B." She says she worked 12 to 39-hour shifts, paid business expenses out of pocket, and was denied overtime or reimbursement, all while being harassed and retaliated against by Uzi and his team. When she reported burnout and requested a performance review as promised by Rock Nation CEO Desiree Perez, she says management ignored her, leading to her constructive discharge in April of 2025. So that was earlier this year. Now, why I'm so disappointed is because it's one thing to, have allegations on you, but it's like Uzi, like you have a cold girlfriend, you're in a public relationship, and so many things have been said about their relationship. And I think that, like, at this point, what we can do is ignore all of the gay rumors because it's clearly not true, right? Maybe bi, but definitely not gay. And I don't really care too much about Uzi's sexuality, right? But my thing is like, if I am the woman, if I am JT, I am super embarrassed that my man is talking to an employee like this because, bitch, I'm the one who's supposed to be, like fulfilling your needs in that way, right? Like, so it's like, is this a real relationship? It does seem like they do care about each other and they definitely have had real moments and stuff like that. But as I always tell you guys, when I talk about JT, I do follow her heavy on Snapchat and she hasn't been active over there recently, which to me is kind of very telling. I think that JT right now is under a lot of stress and pressure because she recently just put a song out, and we'll talk about that in another video. But I think it's super stressful time because she is in rollout mode. Her feedback is always with mixed reviews. And this lawsuit dropped literally in the second day of the song being out. However, Uzi is covered by Rock Nation, which will definitely pull their strings in the background to minimize the situation and make it go away. And if you are paying attention to the media and to Uzi's history, this is not his first lawsuit by any means. He has other pending lawsuits regarding his music and business stuff, which I should get into, but not right now. So let's get back into it. So the suit lists 5 causes of action: workplace sexual harassment, failure to pay overtime, failure to reimburse business expenses, violation of labor code 970, false job promises, constructive discharge. Doe seeks compensatory and punitive damages from Rock Nation, Lil Uzi Vert, Samir Woods, and Uzi Vert LLC, alleging emotional distress, financial loss, and systemic abuse tolerated by his management team. So, yes, let's get into the full document. And we're going to get right into the introduction. So, when Plaintiff Doe was first offered the opportunity to work as Defendant Wood's assistant in February of 2022, so there's a timeline. February 2022, she started. She knew that sleepless nights and long hours would be part of the job. What she did not contemplate and could have not contemplated was the quick escalation of the job from intense and demanding to downright hostile and inappropriate. Supported by his management team, Defendant Woods for 2 years hounded Plaintiff Doe during her employment as his artist management coordinator with unwelcome sexual demands and advances such as the following. Here are some messages according to her. And of course, I hope that we see receipts of this. Of course, I hope that this person is not lying. Okay. So she says, oh, or he says to her, I sent you something on Vanish. Come rub me down before you leave. I'm by myself right now. Send me something. Let me see that booty. So, yeah, like I was saying, when I follow JT a lot on her Snapchat, they live in New York. And I definitely have heard JT talking about how they moved from LA to New York. JT loves living in New York. They have a really nice penthouse in New York City. But to me, it seems like Uzi lives in the studio and JT lives in the penthouse. Like they're literally never together, you know? And so to me, as someone who's really following her, it's like I don't expect to see Uzi on her Snapchat like every day, but like goddamn, like it just seems like they literally live their own separate lives. And that is sort of understandable because they are public figures. But at the end of the day, it's like reading this lawsuit, it really makes me think like, are they together for convenience to just complete each other's public image, or is this really real? And JT has talked about how much she loves Uzi, how much that she wants to marry him and start a family and stuff like that. But this is a huge, huge, huge red flag. He also said, let me see that booty. Ironically, Defendant Woods himself summed up precisely how unlawful his perception and treatment of Plaintiff Doe were when he wrote her, you are more than my assistant, you're my B. Plaintiff Doe could endure no more of Defendant Woods' unlawful behavior. His constructive discharge of her coincided with her suffering severe emotional distress and prolonged physical illness. After years of loyally serving defendants, Plaintiff Doe now brings this action to seek a measure of justice and closure for Defendant Woods' years long pattern of employment law violations, abuse, and harassment. So, the parties who's in the lawsuit, Plaintiff Doe and at all material times mentioned herein was and is a resident of the county of LA. So she is from LA. Plaintiff Doe is informed and believes that defendant Samir, which is Uzi, is an individual doing business as Lil Uzi Vert was and is a resident of Atlanta, Georgia. So at some point, Uzi was living in Georgia. Then he obviously moved to LA, and now he's obviously living in New York. So that's interesting to me. Okay. Plaintiff Doe, because why is she still listing as his place of residence as Atlanta, Georgia? You know, once again, this goes to what's really going on over there. Plaintiff Doe is informed and believes that defendant Rock Nation LLC is and at all relevant times was incorporated in the state of Delaware with a principal place of business located at in LA, right? So Plaintiff Doe is informed and believes that Uzi LLC is and at all relevant times was formed in the state of Georgia. Uzi is a member of Uzi Vert LLC. Therefore, Uzi Vert LLC is a proper resident of California. The true names and capacities, whether individual, corporate, associate, or otherwise, of defendants identified herein, does 1 through 50 inclusive are unknown to plaintiff, who therefore sues said defendants by such fictitious names. Plaintiff alleges that each of the defendants designated herein is legally responsible in some matter for the events and happenings referred to and proximately cause injury and damages to plaintiff as alleged herein or in the complaint. Each such Doe defendant was the agent, employee of, or acting under the direction of all other defendants, and in doing the things alleged was acting with the scope of purpose of said agency and or employment. So we're gonna skip jurisdiction and venue. And let's move right along to the next section, which is the general allegations. Plaintiff Doe first met defendant Woods during her last week as an assistant to the VIP sales manager at the Balenciaga store in LA. That's where Uzi met her. Impressed by her service and professionalism, Uzi offered Plaintiff Doe a job as his assistant. On June 2nd, 2022, Uzi's manager, Amina Diop, which I know her, but I don't know her. She also manages Coil Ray. So here is Amina Diop, founder and CEO of the Diop Agency. She is originally from New York, but she's based in Atlanta, and she's even worked with like Nicki back in the day. And here, one of her main clients is Coil Ray and Uzi. You can see. Amina also has held positions at different labels like Republic Records in the A&R department. But you can see that Coil Ray actually on Republic is one of her main clients right now. So she serves as Uzi's manager, probably like a day-to-day manager, right? Let's keep going. So Amina, she contacted the plaintiff to get her information and set a salary of $50,000, which what, in LA, like this shit is in LA and New York. 50,000 in LA and New York, like come on. Plaintiff Doe would be paid through Uzi Vert LLC, a limited liability corporation run by Miss Diop. 2022, the plaintiff is hired. Okay, so in June of 2022, the girl was hired by Uzi's. The girl was sent Uzi's tour schedule for the 2022 music festival season. For the first 10 days of her employment, plaintiff Doe worked at defendant Wood's home in Los Angeles, California. I'm so sorry if you hear any background noise, guys, because people are doing work outside. For the first 10 days of her employment, she worked at his home in LA, tending to his two dogs and running basic errands around the house. And I think that one of the dogs, at least one of the dogs, stayed with her. And according to JT, like if we're talking about the same person. So from her first week of employment onwards, plaintiff Doe was expected to be available by phone 24 hours a day, 7 days a week. She was expected to respond to text messages or phone calls immediately. And when she failed to do so, she was bullied in group chats by members of defendant Wood's management team. This is one of the things about the music industry that I hate. 24 hours a day, 7 days a week. Like, goddamn, for 50,000? Come on, bro. All right. So on June 30th of 2022, plaintiff Doe, she flew to London for the first stop on Uzi's European festival tour circuit. Throughout the summer of 2022, plaintiff Doe began to pay out of pocket for the necessities needed to perform her job, such as Wi-Fi on various flights throughout Europe and the US, and for other basic incidental costs incurred during travel, including costs for her meals and transportation. Plaintiff Doe also began to work the demanding hours of a tour schedule, working anywhere from 12 to 39 hours straight while on the road. And it's like, how do you expect people to be paying out of pocket for things that they need to get done for your job, working for you, and you're only paying them $50,000? Like if you're paying me 300,000, then it's like okay, but I need that reimbursement ASAP. Might as well actually, why can't you get me a credit card or a debit card, right? A business card, right? Okay, cool. While working the festival tour circuit, plaintiff Doe was expected to complete a variety of tasks, including but not limited to receiving phone calls and text messages and fielding requests from defendant Woods and various members of his management team and entourage, such as his managers, drivers, security, his girlfriend JT, and his friends. So this is the first mention of JT in the lawsuit. Be mindful that JT is not a party in the lawsuit, but she is mentioned several times. So she's also responsible for buying and delivering food for Uzi and his entourage, packing Uzi's bags with his clothes and toiletries for travel, keeping an inventory of the contents of Uzi's luggage, and ensuring said luggage was transported to and from each tour location. Also, packing and carrying at all times a bag with defendant Wood's essential business and personal effects, keeping track of Uzi's schedule and ensuring he was dressed and ready to make his various appointments, ensuring that Uzi had at least one bottle of Casamigos tequila and nicotine vape pens available at all times during his parole. So Uzi was on parole. Now he has had legal issues with like an ex-girlfriend where he like put hands on her, wherever. Like, do they mean parole as in the legal sense? Like, so whatever. Ensuring that Uzi had marijuana, rolling papers, and tobacco available at all times when he was legally allowed to smoke marijuana again. So, yeah, he was on parole. During July of 2022, plaintiff Doe began to compare her working hours with her promised $50,000 in salary. When plaintiff realized that her salary did not match the hours she actually spent working, she contacted Miss Diop, which is Amina Diop, who I showed you. She contacted her with a request for additional compensation and questions regarding reimbursement for her growing business expenses. And to me, that's more than fair, right? You got me spending money out of pocket, ain't paying me shit. And who you think is paying for this? And this the thing with these rappers and shit is that y'all got so much millions of dollars, yet you only want to pay your assistant Penny, somebody who's essential to your 24/7 survival, and then don't want to reimburse. How does that make sense when you get in millions of dollars per show? Man, so, in her quest, right, for reimbursement and more pay, Plaintiff Doe was shut down by Miss Diop, who stated she was only entitled to her 50,000 in salary. What about the reimbursements? Similarly, when Plaintiff Doe asked to see a breakdown of her direct deposit history, Miss Diop denied that request. To this day, Plaintiff Doe was not fully reimbursed for business expenses or fully compensated in line with her salary of 50,000 while employed by Uzi. After the 2022 music festival season ended in September, Plaintiff Doe was sent home abruptly and was not called back to work until January of 2023. Interesting. So, in 2023 is when Uzi begins to SA sexually harass Plaintiff Doe. On February 6, 2023, Plaintiff Doe received a phone call from Mike Brinkley. Important. He's a senior vice president, SVP of artist management at Rock Nation. Mr. Brinkley invited the girl to meet that afternoon at the Rock Nation office, where he offered her a salary of 75,000 for her to work as Uzi's assistant through Rock Nation on his management team with the title of artist management coordinator, personal assistant. So now instead of getting paid through Uzi's LLC, she gonna get paid through Rock Nation's LLC, which is common, in the entertainment business. So on February 17th, 2023, Mr. Brinkley called Plaintiff Doe and asked if she would be willing to relocate to New York, right? Because now at this point, Uzi is living in New York. Rock Nation also has headquarters in New York, but of course, they also have a LA office. Mr. Brinkley indicated that Rock Nation LLC would fly her out to New York City to meet with Desiree Perez, Chief Executive Officer at Rock Nation, as she would be the final deciding voice on if she could really work for Rock Nation. On February 23rd, Plaintiff Doe met with Desiree Perez in New York, so she accepted the offer to fly out. Miss Perez met Plaintiff Doe's request for a salary of 100,000. So see, after Rock Nation reached out, the SVP of Artist Management, Michael Brinkley, he offered her 75,000. When she met with Desiree, she negotiated up for 100,000, okay, which is very smart of her. I wonder if this girl had a lawyer back then, but that's good. So Desiree Perez met the request for 100,000 and offered the girl a relocation fee of 5,000 while explicitly stating the compensation was to start. On the same date, Uzi texted Plaintiff Doe and asked her to stay the night with him at his hotel room. Despite Plaintiff Doe stating that she did not feel comfortable with Defendant Wood's request, he continued to pester her, sending her dozens of messages in an effort to convince her to sleep in his hotel room. Defendant Wood's text messages included the following: "Can you stay with me today? I'm gonna go to the hotel to sleep later though. I will be nice. I just want to sleep. I don't like sleeping by myself. I won't touch you." Girl, where is your girlfriend? We are literally not going to do this shit, girl. I can control myself. Despite Defendant Wood's efforts to convince her to stay the night with him, Plaintiff stood firm and told him that she wasn't going to do it. Shout out to her. This began a 2-year cycle in which Plaintiff Doe attempted to artfully and professionally decline Uzi's countless sexual advances. Each time Plaintiff Doe rejected Defendant Woods, she became fearful that she would lose out on opportunities for career advancement or that she would lose what little access she had to Uzi. During these 2 years, Plaintiff Doe was also happily involved in committed romantic relationships. Plaintiff Doe feared that She had to keep Uzi's flirtation and solicitation a secret in order to keep her job and avoid personal and professional turmoil. Now imagine you going through this with your money, right? He not paying you correctly. He not reimbursing you. Then you can't and you his team won't acquiesce or help you out. And now he want to get with you, but now you can't even tell him that. You don't want to tell nobody that. This is why I hate men. Seriously. During this time, plaintiff Doe experienced increased stress that Uzi's unwelcome actions would be taken out of context and cause harm to her personal relationships. Some of these sexually inappropriate and unwelcome text messages defendant Woods sent her included the following. August 6, 2023, he says, I sent you something on Vanish with the angel emoji and then the emoji wink with the tongue out. Send me something while I'm by myself on Vanish. Dude, I won't tell a soul and I don't be having anything. That's why I vanish mode. August 22nd, 2023. FaceTime me before I gotta do my call. November 6th, 2023. Come rub me down before you leave. November 15th, 2023. I'm by myself right now. Send me something. Once again, where is JT? I'm embarrassed right now if I'm JT. This is disgusting. During the spring of 2023, plaintiff Doe worked between LA and New York, continuing to perform around the clock duties associated with working as Uzi's artist management coordinator and personal assistant. During the summer of 2023, she gained the additional responsibility of overseeing Uzi's move from an apartment to a penthouse in New York City. Once the move was completed, she began managing his penthouse, ensuring that it was clean, fully stocked with groceries and other necessities, and ready for Uzi and or his entourage at a moment's notice. During this time, plaintiff Doe also continued to work 12 to 20-hour days when defendant Woods had a concert or other tour-related performance. Despite her continued requests, defendants failed to provide plaintiff Doe a per diem. Per diem means a daily paycheck when the artist is on tour. Everyone who is working for them and on tour gets a stipend every day to buy food and any necessities, right? So she's requesting a per diem, leaving her, but they failed to provide her that. They failed to provide her a per diem, leaving her to pay out of pocket for business travel related expenses while working the tour schedule. Similar to her treatment in 2022, plaintiff Doe did not receive overtime compensation or proper reimbursement for business expenses such as food and transportation in 2023. These costs were compounded by the fact that plaintiff Doe accompanied Uzi during his nationwide tour, the Pink Tape Tour, from October to December 2023. So in December of 2023, Uzi's girlfriend, Jatavia Johnson, fired her assistant. Okay. So JT fired her own assistant and obtained permission from Uzi to use this girl, plaintiff Doe, as her assistant. So during the remainder of the month of December 2023, plaintiff Doe worked for both defendant Woods and Miss Johnson. Plaintiff Doe was never compensated for her additional responsibilities as Miss Johnson's assistant. Very, very bad, JT. I'm very, very disappointed in you. Very. But, JT's pockets ain't that long like Uzi's, and that's something that we going to get to. So shout out to y'all so much for still being here with me. Please make sure to like the video and that you're subscribed. And I really want to know what you guys think in the comments, especially JT's role in all of this. So in 2024, that's when the plaintiff begins therapy and struggles with burnout. So in January of 2024, plaintiff Doe, encouraged by her partner, began therapy due to the stress and emotional distress she experienced due to defendant Wood's harassment. Plaintiff Doe began going to therapy on a regular basis. In February of 2024, the company debit cards provided to make purchases for defendant Woods ran dry. So they had debit cards, but then the money ran out. Still getting money, I running out. Plaintiff Doe was directed to pay out of pocket for food, clothes, and alcohol for defendant Woods and his entourage. When plaintiff Doe contacted defendant Woods manager Amina Diop and Mike Brinkley of Rock Nation with requests for reimbursement for her business expenses or a standard per diem, she was told she only was entitled to her salary once again. But once again, you got me paying out of pocket for food, not just for you, for your whole entourage. To this date, Rock Nation, Defendant Woods, and Uzi Vert LLC have failed to fully reimburse Plaintiff Doe for her business expenses. During the majority of the month of February, now we in 2024, Plaintiff Doe worked in LA, working long hours at the studio where Defendant Woods began to work on his next album. Plaintiff Doe would accompany Uzi to the studio each day, often working 10 hours a day, ensuring that Uzi and his entourage received food 3 times a day, transportation, and other necessities to ensure that they were comfortable while making music. During this time period, defendants continued to fail to provide Plaintiff Doe with overtime compensation or proper reimbursement for business expenses. And at this point, it is truly like there's no excuse for this because you are under Rock Nation at this point. Like your paycheck is coming from Rock Nation. Uzi's LLC should be paying Rock Nation whatever overtime or whatever that this girl needs. Like there is literally no excuse. So in March of 2024, plaintiff returned to New York City and began to experience intense burnout while continuing to work 10 hours a day on average. In April of 2024, after 2 years and 2 months of harassment, employment law violations, and abuse, plaintiff Doe returned home to LA, unable to handle the hostile work environment created by defendants. So now she returned home and stopped working. So in 2024, that's when Uzi's drug fueled retaliation begins. Plaintiff Doe returned to work as Uzi's artist management coordinator in May of 2024. When Plaintiff Doe returned, she faced retaliation from defendant Woods himself along with his management team. Upon her return to New York City on May 16, 2024, Plaintiff Doe was denied use of the company debit card and other resources needed to perform her job. Uzi's drivers, in particular, began to exhibit resentment towards Plaintiff Doe because they felt they had to absorb Plaintiff Doe's job duties when they, similar to Plaintiff Doe, were continuously not paid the full amounts they were owed. What a shame. During this time, defendant Woods continued his pattern of sexual harassment, calling Plaintiff Doe by the name of Big Butt and mentioning she had a quote fat ass. In one text message from defendant Woods on June 20th, 2023, defendant Woods stated, "Let me see that booty." As the year progressed, defendant Woods continued to retaliate against Plaintiff Doe by harassing her verbally. When defendant Woods was high on drugs such as Xanax and Oxycontin, shaking my fucking head, Uzi, he would often subject Plaintiff Doe to an endless barrage of hostile and abusive text messages. Defendant Woods' endless messages would leave Plaintiff Doe wondering whether she was being terminated or whether he was just upset. Disgusting. During one such text message in July 2024, defendant Woods became angry that a new member of his entourage was not provided a hotel room. While under the influence, defendant Woods texted the plaintiff with the following: "Stop being so fucking soft. This is me to you. No black rapper would be able to tell a white girl stop being soft. Well, today I am. Stop being soft," in all caps. "I don't care if you mad, sad, cry, whatever. You a girl. You supposed to." When Plaintiff Doe apologized for the oversight, defendant Woods responded, "You are more than my assistant. You are my bitch." During another text exchange in October of 2024, defendant Woods became angry when Plaintiff Doe failed to organize all his white clothes in one closet. While under the influence, defendant Woods sent Plaintiff Doe over a dozen messages before he finally stated, "You are not even on drugs like I am. I don't understand you mental over being successful. You are basically saying fuck what he say, like I'm just a pushover, but I'm not upset. Life only gets better. I'm not trying to be in a bad mood. Everybody counts me out. Like I'm really not a star. I feel that shit. But I have somebody doing it today." Just a little upset, honestly. When Plaintiff Doe responded to Uzi's messages and asked where they go from here, he responded, "I'm just mad. It's cool." That's sick because you're the one with the power, right? Power imbalance. Defendant Wood's sexual and verbal harassment continued throughout the year. So now we skip to 2025, where Plaintiff Doe suffers constructive discharge. Oh my God. We almost there, y'all. Thank you so much for sticking with me. Please like the video. It was only in February of 2025 that Plaintiff Doe was once again provided a company debit card with funds in order to adequately perform her job duties. Throughout the winter and spring of 2025, Plaintiff Doe continued to work 7 days a week from 8 in the morning to midnight. In March of 2025, Plaintiff Doe spoke with Mike Brinkley from Rock Nation, right? And explained that she would like a performance review and a change in compensation, in line with what Ms. Perez promised 2 years prior. From March 25th, 2025 to April 15th, 2025, Mr. Brinkley failed to provide Plaintiff Doe with an opportunity to discuss her requested performance review or change in compensation. When Plaintiff Doe would inquire as to when they could schedule a time to meet, he continued to postpone the conversation. Now, Rock Nation is dodging. In late April 2025, after 3 years and 2 months of abuse, harassment, and mistreatment, Plaintiff Doe could no longer tolerate her working conditions and felt compelled to resign. Days later, Ms. Johnson called Plaintiff Doe and proceeded to insult her and badmouth her over the phone. JT, once again, very disappointed, and I'm honestly disgusted. Once again, we hope that what Plaintiff Doe is saying is true, but JT, I can see you doing this. Calling her and insulting her over the phone for what? You was never paying her. So let's go to administrative remedies. On August 8th of 2025, plaintiff filed a claim with the California Civil Rights Department for sexual harassment and retaliation. On August 12th, 2025, the California CRD provided plaintiff with a notice of case closure and right to sue. So, first claim of relief. Is this where they say what they want from this lawsuit? Workplace sexual harassment prohibited under California's Fair Employment and Housing Act. Plaintiff Doe realleges and incorporates herein by reference each and every allegation set forth above. At all times herein, Plaintiff Doe, while first employed by Uzi Vert LLC and then Rock Nation, worked as Defendant Woods' assistant or artist management coordinator and reported directly to Defendant Woods himself. In order to carry out her job duties and responsibilities, Plaintiff Doe was subjected to harassing conduct because she was a white woman. So this is the first mention of her being white, right? Even though we could see that with the text messages back and forth from her to Uzi. Defendant Wood subjected her to unwelcome sexual demands and advances and verbal harassment. That harassing conduct was continuous throughout the last 2 years of her employment with Uzi. Uzi's harassing conduct was so severe and pervasive that a reasonable person in plaintiff Doe's circumstances would have considered the work environment to be hostile, intimidating, offensive, oppressive, or abusive. Uzi's harassing conduct made it increasingly difficult for plaintiff Doe to perform her job duties and responsibilities. Plaintiff Doe never knew when Defendant Woods would engage in inappropriate sexual behavior. This caused Plaintiff Doe to fear her everyday interactions with Defendant Woods. Each time Plaintiff Doe rejected Defendant Woods, she became fearful that she would lose out on opportunities for career advancement or that she would be subject to retaliation from Uzi, leaving her unable to perform her job duties. Plaintiff Doe feared that she had to keep Uzi's flirtation and solicitation secret in order to keep her job and avoid personal and professional turmoil. During this time, Plaintiff Doe experienced the increased stress that Uzi's unwelcome actions would be taken out of context and cause harm to her personal romantic relationships. As a result of Uzi's harassment, Plaintiff Doe is entitled to compensatory damages. Plaintiff Doe has suffered and continues to suffer emotional distress and mental anguish, for which she has sought out the treatment of licensed mental health professionals. In doing the acts herein alleged, Defendant Woods acted despicably and with oppression, fraud, malice, and conscious disregard of Plaintiff Doe's rights and is therefore liable for exemplary and punitive damages in an amount according to proof at trial. So she's willing to go to trial for this. Second claim of relief. Now, failure to pay overtime compensation. All right. So she's reinforcing what she said in the allegations. Plaintiff Doe realleges and incorporates herein by reference each and every allegation set forth above. California Labor Code defines workday and day to mean any consecutive 24-hour period commencing at the same time each calendar day, and defines work week and week to mean any 7 consecutive days starting with the same calendar day each week. Labor Code 510 codifies the right to overtime compensation at 1.5 times the regular hourly rate of pay for hours worked in excess of 8 hours a day or 40 hours in a week, or for the first 8 hours worked on the seventh day of work, and to overtime compensation at twice the regular hourly rate for hours worked in excess of 12 hours in a day or excess of 8 hours in a day on the seventh day. Child, that was a lot. We almost done. Stick with me. Stick with me. I promise you. Defendant's failure to pay plaintiff dough this overtime compensation as required by California law violates the provisions of labor code and is therefore unlawful. Pursuant to the labor code, plaintiff dough was entitled to recover unpaid overtime compensation as well as interest, costs, and attorney's fees. Third claim for relief, failure to properly reimburse business expenses. So she reinforces everything she said above. While the plaintiff was working for the defendants and acting on the direct instruction of the defendants and discharging plaintiff Doe's duties for defendants, plaintiff Doe incurred out-of-pocket business expenses related to travel for work when plaintiff Doe was required to work at various locations throughout the United States, Europe, Asia, and Australia in order to fulfill her responsibilities as defendant Wood's assistant and artist management coordinator. The defendants have failed to indemnify or in any manner reimburse plaintiff Doe for these expenditures and losses, and thereby violated the labor code, which provides that an employer shall indemnify his or her employee for all necessary expenditures or losses incurred by the employee in direct consequence of the discharge of his or her duties or of his or her obedience to the directions of the employer. As a direct and proximate result of the defendant's conduct, plaintiff Doe suffered substantial losses according to proof, as well as prejudgment interest, costs, and attorney fees for the prosecution of this action. Oh my God. Fourth claim of relief, man, the violation of the labor code. Okay, so it says the labor code 970 provides that no person or agent or officer thereof, directly or indirectly, shall influence, persuade, or engage any person to change from one place to another in this state, or form any place outside to any place within the state, or form any place within the state to any place outside, for the purpose of working in any branch of labor through or by means of knowing false representations, whether spoken, written, or advertised in print form concerning the length of such time work will last or the compensation therefore. During Rock Nation's hiring process, Desiree Perez promised the plaintiff periodic performance reviews and opportunities to improve her compensation structure as her time with Rock Nation LLC as defendant Wood's artist management coordinator progressed. Rock Nation LLC's representation was knowingly false, as plaintiff Doe was never provided with an opportunity for a performance review, despite her multiple requests to Mike Brinkley to coordinate a time for the performance review. She was constantly denied an opportunity from him, who purposely evaded her request and avoided getting back to her. Plaintiff Doe, oh my God, reasonably relied on Miss Perez's representations in changing her residence from LA to New York City for the purpose of working for the defendants. As a result of Miss Perez's knowing misrepresentations, plaintiff Doe is entitled to compensatory damages and penalties, as well as attorney's fees and costs pursuant to the labor code. Fifth claim of relief, constructive discharge. So while employed as Uzi's assistant, she suffered unwelcome sexual advances, verbal harassment, unpaid overtime compensation, and lack of reimbursement of business expenses, all while working the grueling hours associated with tour and recording studio schedules. Plaintiff Doe was also required to perform work as defendant Wood's girlfriend's assistant, despite never receiving compensation for the added responsibility. That's a shame. After 3 years and 2 months of abuse, harassment, mistreatment, plaintiff Doe could no longer tolerate her working conditions and felt compelled to resign. As a direct and proximate result of plaintiff Doe's constructive termination, she suffered and will continue to suffer extreme and severe mental anguish and emotional distress and incur medical expenses for treatment by health professionals and for other incidental expenses. Plaintiff Doe is thereby entitled to general and compensatory damages. She alleges that the defendant's conduct described above was done with malice, fraud, and oppression, with conscious disregard for her rights, and with the intent, design, and purpose of injuring her. By reason thereof, she is entitled to punitive or exemplary damages from defendants in a sum according to proof at trial. So here is the prayer for relief. Wherefore, plaintiff prays for relief against defendants as follows: for general and compensatory damages according to proof, for special damages according to proof, for reasonable attorney's fees and costs, for prejudgment interest according to statute, for punitive award against defendants, for cost of suit according to statute, and for any other relief that is just and proper, signed by the attorney. Woo! So that is it, y'all. 16 pages. Once again, I am very shout out to Document Things number one for the receipts. Okay. I tagged him because I seen a back and forth because of the shit going on with JT on the internet, with her new music dropping and fans arguing, because now all of her haters are Bartier and stuff like that. And then I saw that people have posted this because of what JT said about Stephon Diggs, right? And his alleged situations, legal situations, regarding sexual crimes. And so they were throwing it back in her face like, oh, but what is your man doing? So, child, this is what your man been doing. And it ain't the first lawsuit. It won't be the last. Corporations face lawsuits every time. But if what the plaintiff is laying out in this lawsuit is true, I am really disgusted with Uzi, his team, Rock Nation, and with JT. And JT has her own assistant now. And of course, I see him a lot because I follow him. I mean, I follow her on Snapchat, but I do remember JT saying something about, them sharing assistants, and the assistant, one of her dogs is still in LA because the assistant or someone chose to keep him. And I think that this might be this girl. So working for celebrities is really hard because they are kind of on 24/7. They have really intense schedules when it comes to touring and recording in the studio and everything. But as people of a certain tax bracket, I just think that you should be way more responsible with your money, especially in supporting the team who is supporting you, who is making your job possible. If you guys want the documents, let me know and I'll send you the link below in the comments. But yeah, and it's really interesting because you know how like that whole situation happened with Uzi supposedly getting at Ice Spice during the BET Awards when she was first coming up, and then JT and Ice having a problem with each other because of that allegedly. And this is at the time when they were still cool with Nicki, right? And so it's like, wow, Uzi, you really a ain't shit nigga. Like, you really will flirt with anybody. Like, you don't have no respect for JT and your relationship. Like, JT, you gonna still be with him. And it sucks because, like, this is what these girls settle for. Because, once again, like, if JT wasn't with Uzi, she could not sustain her lifestyle on her own. Here he is buying her expensive cars, which she does not drive, because she does get driven everywhere, especially living in New York City. So he does provide her with a great lifestyle. But is this worth all of that? I mean, I guess it is, and it's really more embarrassing because cheating is one thing, but cheating with the employee is disgusting, and we're all finding out about it. And with the track record that Uzi has, it's truly embarrassing on JT's part. And I don't expect JT to be perfect. As women, we are not perfect, especially in love and relationships. But, now your professional lifestyle is getting roped in with his, and it's not looking good, especially if you're the one that's on the phone insulting her and intimidating her. And y'all should have had a plan for if JT was going to fire her assistant, who was going to pay this girl. And that's what I don't like about celebrities, is that they try to get a lot of work out of you for the least amount of money. Ain't y'all sitting on millions of dollars? What's the tea? Like, what's the reason why y'all can't pay y'all staff? And even in the lawsuit, it said that the other people on Uzi's staff was feeling some type of way about the assistant leaving and coming back because while she was gone, the driver and all his other staff had to step up and complete her responsibilities while she was away. So they was feeling some type of way. But she, in this lawsuit, she was basically saying like, but y'all not getting paid either, right? Like, y'all are not getting paid for all of the expenses that you guys are incurring out of pocket. And one of one of the things that we need to, respect, and as people of color, we need to make sure that we're following the law, because these white bitches will take your ass to court. All right, Uzi, I am taking you to court, and I'm gonna get all of what I owe plus interest. And to me, it's just so disrespectful that y'all be sitting on millions, can't even pay your assistant 100,000, but want them to be available 24/7. Plus, not only buy you food, your entourage food, make sure you got your drugs. Oh, and speaking of drugs, JT, is it worth it? Like a couple months back, Uzi was rushed to the hospital. Here you can see them, an ambulance with a whole bunch of umbrellas covering it and what looks like a security guard. He was said to have stayed in the hospital overnight. To this day, nobody knows what happens. And of course, yeah, your medical things can be private or whatever, but usually if it's something sort of innocent, it usually would come out in the press. And JT was there with him, by his side. But I really felt like during this time, Uzi was allegedly overdosing, and he is allegedly, according to this lawsuit, he's smoking weed on Oxycontin as well as Xanax, right? This is not really surprising for us, but it's like, to see it in black and white in the paperwork, it's just like, bro, I really need Uzi to calm down, take better care of himself. And I don't know, bro, for JT, I just don't know if I could be in a relationship with this type of person for real. But, with power is very important. And as well as money, especially this day and age. And JT, I wonder, like, how much is it going to take for you to know that, like, you deserve better? You're being disrespected. But number two, I showed this to show that, like, this was a really covered up really well by Rock Nation, and Uzi's affiliation to Rock Nation is very good for him because, like, none of this stuff really got out. We could have known what he overdosed on, but it never got out. And he's had other lawsuits that have been drowned out by Rock Nation's power and stuff like that. And this might be one of them, especially if it is true that the lawsuit has been dropped. As long as the girl gets paid, I don't care. But I chose to still read the lawsuit and still cover it because even if it gets settled outside of court, it doesn't mean that it didn't happen. And it doesn't mean that the perpetrators don't deserve to be held accountable. You cannot pay away all of your problems. And if you can't pay away your problems, why didn't you pay the girl while she was working for you? So yeah, man, with more things that I have been learning recently, I'm really starting to see that, not starting to see, but I'm getting more and more like tea and really concrete things on Rock Nation, and I'm not liking it. I mean, I never really liked it, but when you see the receipts coming out and you see them getting buried, and even the discussion of this lawsuit in the media was really minimal. And honestly, within 24 hours of the lawsuit being announced, it was already being covered up because they said that it was dropped. Even though people were like, why isn't the docket updated? Where is the docket? Is it still being updated? So, yeah, man, I will be trying to follow this as closely as possible because I think it's really, really important. We have so many allegations in here, from sexual harassment to not being paid, and that's really serious to me, you know, as well as harassment and being ignored. So let me know what you guys think about this. I appreciate it if you read the full lawsuit with me. Let me know what you guys think about JT's role in this. Let me know what you think about Rock Nation's role in this. Come and join me on Patreon on my Inside Thoughts tier, where I'm always going to have the tea and get into the real depth of these situations because this is truly disgusting. Good luck to all parties involved. Thank you so much for being with me, and I will see you in the next video. Peace.
It's your girl Vina Love, the Harlem Princess, your favorite princess, and this is Destiny V. Love.
Period.